Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I want to go over the new documentary on Netflix about Ghislane Maxwell. It's called Filthy Rich. And the reason why it's called Filthy Rich is because there was a previous one about Jeffrey Epstein that was also titled Filthy Rich. Now, if you're not familiar with Jeffrey Epstein, let me give you a little bit of the backstory and how this relates to Ghislane Maxwell. So, Jeffrey Epstein was a billionaire who had an island, a private island, 8 miles off the coast of St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, right off of Red Hook. And it was called Little Epstein Island, or other people refer to it with a lot more crude names, because if you guys are familiar with the first documentary or know anything about Jeffrey Epstein, period, you would know that he was eventually sentenced to prison for sex trafficking young girls. Supposedly was over 500 young women that were trafficked, raped, molested, sexually assaulted. Okay. Now, in Ghislane Maxwell's documentary with the same title, Filthy Rich, we learned that a lot of these young women were groomed by Maxwell. They trusted her. She was a socialite, or she is a socialite. Oh, the reason why I refer to Jeffrey Epstein in the past tense, my apologies, is that he supposedly committed suicide. Okay. Now, there is this list of people who visited Epstein Island. Like I said, it was registered. It was registered in the Virgin Islands, the United States Virgin Islands, off the coast of St. Thomas. Okay, there is the east side of the island is called Red Hook. Wait, is it the east or west? I forget. But anyway, it was right off of Red Hook, and it was about 8 miles away, about a 20-minute boat ride away from the main island of St. Thomas. Okay. So Ghislane Maxwell in New York, she is a, not anymore, but really big on like the socialite scene. Her father was very wealthy before he passed away, and she was really well known in her circles as someone who was rich and famous and popular. And she was a typical New York socialite, spending money and partying in well-known clubs. She was a founder of a women's club named after the original Kit Kat Club. She was also the director of the Oxford United Football Club during her father's ownership. So she used that clout and privilege to groom these underage girls and befriend them, seeming like she was befriending them, and introduced them to Jeffrey Epstein. And in their own accounts, so they had the young women who are grown up now, give accounts of what happened. And it was everything from, Maxwell telling them to give Jeffrey Epstein massages, to this young woman, Virginia Roberts, is 17 years old, being forced to sleep with Prince Andrew of Britain, of England, allegedly, right? This is what she said. Virginia said happened. Ghislane Maxwell says it didn't happen. Prince Andrew and the Buckingham Palace also dispel the claim. So I wasn't there, but I do believe the victim. But I will say allegedly for legal reasons. So Ghislane Maxwell is in the background, right? Knowing that this girl is underage, taking a photo with Prince Andrew. And there are up to, they said, over 500 young girls who were forced on this island, which 8 miles may not seem like a long time, but young one woman was talking about how she wanted to swim it. And if you guys know anything about the Caribbean Sea, it's choppy, especially at night. So a 20-minute boat ride is really a long way to swim. Like, she would have been exhausted. I'm not saying that you can't do it, because you absolutely could, but there's a good chance that she was, she could have drowned if she tried to swim 8 miles without any kind of, life vest or anything. So, but what struck me as interesting in this documentary, outside of the witnesses' testimonies and the victims who spoke out, which I'm really glad that they did that, because that's empowering them and they have agency. But other people were so enamored by her family's wealth. Okay. Ghislane Maxwell, she had, I'm sure they're taken by now, but many passports. So she had multiple citizenships. So she was considered a flight risk. But they ultimately found her in New Hampshire, and she had tin foil on her cell phone. And I'm like, this lady is too rich to to not have known better. I'm sure she's gone to like the best boarding schools and things of that nature. So in her circle here, she's with another older billionaire. But it just made me chuckle, because who puts tinfoil on a cell phone? Like, that's not how cell phones work, Ghislane. But listening to the people that were enamored with her wealth and her status in society was really telling and eye-opening. Like, a lot of people are really enamored and they're in awe of the rich. But as that old adage goes, like, money can't buy you class. I mean, Epstein was a billionaire, and yet he spent his time abusing that power and that privilege and sexually assaulting young women. And he wouldn't have even had access to these women had not Ghislane acted like a madam and brought these girls to Epstein, which was really disappointing. But justice, and here they're with Trump and Melania, Donald Trump and Melania Trump. There's a list of people who visited this island that has been an under lock and key, right, for a myriad of reasons. But a lot of people do not think that Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide, but that, like Oprah asked Meghan Markle, were you silent or were you silenced? Okay. Either way, Jeffrey's not talking. Okay. And I'm sure Ghislane Maxwell is pretty nervous, or at least I would be if I was her. So on December 20th, 2021, Ghislane Maxwell was found guilty and convicted by a jury in U.S. federal court on 5 sex trafficking related counts, carrying a sentence up to 65 years imprisonment. Her attorneys asked for leniency because she's 60 years old. However, she was sentenced to 20 years in prison, despite prosecutors pushing for a sentence of 30 to 55 years in prison. So she's 60 years old, 20 years. I mean, she could live to 80. Betty White lived to 99, but Betty White wasn't out here, grooming. At least I don't think so. That, she was America's sweetheart, one of America's sweethearts, right? So yeah, I don't know. There's the island, though. There's the picture of his compound, his house on his island. And I don't know, guys. 20 years, I feel like justice has been served in this case. But again, I'm really glad that the the victims of sexual assault were empowered enough to speak out. I'm really happy that she was sentenced, that her money didn't buy her, the ability to harm so many young women and get away with it. And yeah, let me know. And like I said, money's not everything. I mean, morals and integrity and character top all of that. So drop down in the comments. Let me know what you guys think. Please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. And I will talk with you lovely people later. Take care. Bye, golden butterflies.